If you're a tattoo artist, everyone is telling you to be authentic in your marketing. But what the fuck does that even mean? And why does it feel like the more you try to be authentic, the faker you actually come across? I'm Oshin, the co-founder of C23 Labs tattoo education platform, and after personally working with hundreds of tattoo artists, I've discovered an easy way for tattoo artists to make social media content with authenticity. The goal of this video is to completely change how you approach and feel about making social media content as a tattoo artist. Today I'm going to break down and explain in simple terms the confusing concept of authenticity that gets thrown around a lot constantly in tattoo marketing. Explain the power of storytelling and how it relates to authenticity, and finally show you how to create high quality, authentic storytelling social media content that actually gets clients in less than an hour. You know, when it comes to making social media content, we all hear the word authenticity thrown around a lot recently. Just be authentic. But what does that really mean? And more importantly, how do you actually do it without feeling like you're putting on an act? Well, let's start with what authenticity actually means. By definition, authentic means of undisputed origin and not a copy, genuine, real, not fake. The exact definition explains the paradox that the more you consciously try to be authentic, the less authentic you're actually being. It's like when you're walking and you start to become really self-conscious of yourself walking. Next thing you know, your limbs don't work anymore properly. You're now thinking too hard about walking and you're thinking left leg, right leg, and you've turned into Squidward. Being authentic is being natural, being yourself. The whole point is that you're not trying. Let me give you a tattoo analogy on this. When you're tattooing a client, are you consciously thinking about how you're holding the machine? Of course not. You're completely focused on creating the best possible tattoo. Your posture, your facial expressions, how you talk, all of that happens naturally because your attention is elsewhere. It's the exact same with your marketing. When you're obsessing over being authentic and showing your personality, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're thinking about yourself instead of what really matters, the content message. So what the fuck is authentic content? Well, to figure out what authenticity really is, let's clear up some misconceptions about what authenticity isn't. Firstly, authenticity in your marketing isn't about revealing extremely personal stuff about you. You see, some tattoo artists and creators share personal information that not even Batman could beat out of me. And your clients don't need or want to hear most of that either. They only need to hear the information about you and about your process that will actually relate to them. More on this later. Secondly, authenticity isn't about being perfect. In fact, trying to present a perfect image is one of the quickest ways to come across as inauthentic. Real people have flaws, make mistakes, and are constantly learning and growing. So when you seem perfect, you're actually not relatable and they're a bit intimidating, which sometimes makes clients more anxious about your opinion of them rather than excited to talk. Third, authenticity isn't about being the exact same as everyone else. I see so many tattoo artists directly trying to copy the content of other artists word for word, thinking that's the path to growth, and getting frustrated when they hop on a stupid trend that started 3 weeks ago and get no clients. Don't get me wrong, stealing concepts and ideas like an artist is smart, but directly copying is the definition of being inauthentic. Fourth, authenticity isn't about being completely unfiltered. Some people think that being authentic means saying whatever comes to mind without any consideration. That's not authenticity, that's just poor communication. Authenticity in your social media content works the same way. I see so many tattoo artists posting rants about difficult clients, boring designs, or shitting on other tattoo artists, or posting half-assed photos with no videos because the art should speak for itself. But what does that show about your intention and care of your service? It's like showing up to a tattoo session without preparing your station and not thinking about your client's experience. Your marketing is part of the client experience. Marketing is part of the art form in this day and age. And firstly, if the work did actually speak for itself, honestly, it would. And secondly, being a fantastic artist is the bare minimum nowadays to be a full-time tattoo artist. There are tons of amazing artists out there doing work as good as yours and also have great marketing. So why would someone pick you? Think about it. True authenticity in your content isn't about having no filter. It's about making thoughtful choices that accurately represent who you are and what you stand for, while still considering your audience and goals. And finally, authenticity isn't something you can fake. You can't follow a step-by-step guide to appear authentic, because the very act of trying to appear a certain way is inauthentic. So if that's what authenticity isn't, what is it? Authenticity is about being so focused on something outside yourself that you forget to be self-conscious. Think about the times when you feel the most natural, most you. It's probably when you're deeply engaged in something you care about, when you're tattooing, when you're drawing, when you're designing, when you're having a great conversation with a friend about something you're really passionate about. You're in that flow state of passion. In these moments, you're not thinking about how you're coming across. You're just being, and that's authentic. The key to authenticity in your marketing is to shift your focus from yourself to what you're sharing. Let me ask you a question. If you could talk and nerd out about anything all day, every day, what would you talk about? Most of you would answer, well, art, tattooing, designing. Some of you would also say philosophy, psychology, even anime. How tired would you get from talking about these things? Not too tired, right? You would actually feel very passionate and more excited when talking about these things. So why are you not just talking about these things in your content? Because when you're genuinely interested in and excited about a subject, whether it's, a weird tattoo you created, a new unique design you made with a client, or a client's interesting story behind this tattoo, your natural personality shines through without effort and you don't feel burnt out. Because the burnout you feel from making content comes from making certain types of content or following trends or writing content scripts that you don't actually relate to and don't represent who you really are or what you're passionate about. You've already used half of your energy trying to be something you're not, meaning you only have 50% of your energy left over to actually do the work. One of my favorite examples or analogies of this is in the scene in X-Men when Magneto is watching Mystique lift weights. Mystique has the power to shapeshift into anything, but her natural body is blue and scaly. And due to embarrassment, she actually walks around with a normal human skin, like Jennifer Lawrence in the movie. Magneto, who can, by the way, control metal, takes pride in, mutants being different and proves to Mystique that she's actually not really being true to herself by lifting the weights in the air and then dropping it on her. Because what happens is Mystique instantly shifts back into her blue skin to catch the weight because she needs to use all of her mental energy to catch the weight, right? That shows that she's using half of her energy just by being something she's not. It's the same in your content. When you're trying to follow trends, beat the algorithm and, make types of content others are making that aren't really true to you, you're already wasting half of your energy, meaning you burn out quicker and more frequently. And trust me, I've been there a gazillion times too. But the good news is making more authentic content is not only less stressful, but also way easier. Let me give you a real example. So I'm working with a tattoo artist. His name's Justin. He creates lovely reels and pieces and honestly, he has fantastic client relationships too. His clients return a lot, but he struggles a lot with social media and making content. Before we kind of worked together, every time he posted, it felt, awkward, forced. His engagement was low. Honestly, he was just really fed up with marketing altogether. But the breakthrough for him came when we shifted his focus. So instead of trying to figure out, the algorithm or being authentic on camera, I had him simply talk about a recent tattoo he'd done, the story behind it, why the client wanted it, the challenges in creating it, what the client was worried about before, how the client felt to see it finished, and what was his reaction. The difference was night and day because when he focused on telling the story of the whole tattoo experience, he kind of forgot to be self-conscious or focused too heavily on the length of the reel or the music, His natural passion, expertise, and personality came through effortlessly. Those videos are actually now getting more engagement than anything he'd posted before. And most importantly, he's gained 9 new clients in only 2 weeks of posting authentic content who want real portfolio type pieces. And has even said that he's kind of falling in love with creating content. It's because he sees his content as an extension of his tattoo brand that he takes pride in rather than a burden. And the beautiful part is these reels don't actually get a lot of views because they don't have to. That's not what's important. What's important is showing his passion for what he does, right? Speaking directly to his ideal clients about their hesitations and fears they have around getting a tattoo that makes them feel heard. And through this, his natural, friendly and approachable energy shines, which makes him feel human and someone you can trust in these reels. So how can you do this? What is the best way to present your authenticity on your content with it still being engaging enough to watch? Because yeah, authenticity is, super important in your content, but also formatting it in a way that, stops people and grabs their and retains their attention is very important. As every other business and creator, right, is fighting over your client's attention too. The answer is to format your content in a way humans naturally connect with information the most, and that is through stories. You see, humans see the world through stories. This is due to what's called in psychology the narrative fallacy. The narrative fallacy is a psychological finding that explains how our brains are literally wired to understand and remember information when it's presented as a story or narrative rather than as, isolated facts or concepts. Basically explains that humans have a tendency to create stories and explanations that connect events even when those connections might not actually exist. We crave meaning and patterns because we fear the unknown. We hate not understanding things or not having an explanation for things, And stories give us exactly that. That's actually why, ancient cultures pass down their knowledge through, myths and legends. And of course, stories retain people's attention. When you start telling a story, you create what psychologists call an open loop in the viewer's mind. Our brains are hardwired to seek closure. We hate unfinished stories. That's why you stay up till 3 a.m. and finish a good book or binge watch another episode, even though, you have work tomorrow, And like this open loop creates a tension that can only be resolved solved by continuing to watch or listen. It's like an itch that needs to be scratched. And that's exactly what you want in your content. People who stay until the end. Storytelling also, helps with retention because stories create emotional connections. For example, like when we hear a story about someone's experience, getting their first tattoo and their nervousness turning into, extreme joy, we don't just mentally process that information. We kind of actually feel it. And information, tied to an emotion is remembered way more than facts. That's why your client experience and your design process in story form are so much more powerful than, a simple photo of your tattoo. For example, like a caption that says, "Tattooed this bird today," with a simple photo of your bird tattoo. It's not really quite memorable. But sharing the entire journey, for example, my client wanted a tattoo of a cardinal bird for her father who passed away unexpectedly last year. Cardinals were his favorite birds. He'd point them out on, family hikes, saying they reminded him of his own father and his own childhood time with his father. After hearing this, we decided to place the cardinal on a branch from the maple tree in her childhood backyard, where they'd watch the birds together. We positioned it on her forearm so she could see it daily, just as her father would have pointed it out. And during the session, we actually adjusted the red tones to match the specific cardinal species native to where she grew up. Here's the final piece and my client's reaction. See, now that's memorable. It conveys emotion. It shows your attention to detail and experience, and the story keeps people watching to see the final result. So as a tattoo artist, how do you step by step apply all of this into your own marketing? So here are some practical ways to shift your focus from being authentic to simply sharing what is authentic in a storytelling way. Number 1, focus on the story, not yourself. Every tattoo has a story. Why did the person get the tattoo? Why did they choose the design? What does it mean to them? How did they find you? What did you like about the design? What do you and your client have in common? What changes did you make to the design together and why? When you're naturally talking about these stories, like literally just what happened throughout the whole experience, your authentic self naturally comes through and it will feel really easy to make this content. Number 2, share your actual process, not the polished version. Don't always just show the perfect final result. Also sometimes show the real journey. The challenges you faced with a particular design, how you solved a problem with, a difficult placement, and what you learned from a specific piece. The discussions you had with your clients to show their involvement and your care. And, talk about any changes to the design and placement you made and why you felt it made the tattoo better or why you made those changes. These insights are valuable to potential clients and allow you to share your experience without feeling like, you're showing off. And number 3, talk about what you genuinely care about. What aspects of the tattooing process are you most passionate about? The artistic expression and the difference, between each design and client, the human connection, the story behind each tattoo, how to make it flow perfectly on your client's specific body. Whatever it is, that's what you should be talking about because that's where your natural enthusiasm will shine through. Number 4, use the client's words, not just yours. When a client tells you why they love their tattoo or why they chose you or how you made them feel, that's marketing gold. Their authentic reaction to your work is far more powerful than anything you could script, right? So make sure to, get this feedback from your clients, first of all, either through a video you record with them or through you repeating their words throughout your reel that explains, the process. Also, mention what they didn't like and how you guys came to a design that you both loved. It shows the attentiveness that you have, but also shows the natural co-creation of the design with you and your clients, which reassures the clients that they'll actually be involved in their own tattoo. And number 5, embrace vulnerability in your process. It's okay to share challenges, mistakes you've learned from or areas where you're still growing when it comes to your work. In fact, this kind of honesty builds more trust than pretending to be perfect, as mentioned earlier. Just make sure it's relevant to your audience. Remember, not everything needs to be shared. And this stems from a social psychology phenomenon called the pratfall effect. An individual's likability can actually increase after they make a mistake, but only if they're perceived as competent. Basically, if you're a good tattoo artist, explaining the difficulties you face with some designs and how you overcome them has a hypnotic attracting effect on your audience. And number 6, document rather than create. Instead of trying to come up with content ideas from scratch, just document what's already happening. The consultation process, the design development, the tattooing session, the client's reaction. These are all natural moments filled with genuine emotion, right, and interest that you can use in your marketing. I will explain the easiest way to do this step by step later in this video, by the way. Okay, now I know what some of you watching this are thinking, but Oisín, I'm just not comfortable on camera. That's completely fine, because authenticity doesn't mean you have to be an extrovert or love being filmed, right? It means being true to who you are. So if you're more reserved, your content should reflect that and can reflect that, For example, don't record yourself directly looking at the camera like me now, like you've been kidnapped, right? If you're extremely introverted. Use voiceovers and B-roll shots if that feels more natural. And you can also have clients do the talking for some reels. I also hear, this a lot from tattoo artists too. What if my real personality isn't marketable? There's an audience for everyone. The tattoo community is, incredibly diverse. Honestly, humans in general are incredibly diverse. And, clients are looking for artists they personally connect with. Some clients want, a bubbly, energetic, fun experience, of course, but others prefer something, calm and thoughtful. By being yourself, you'll actually attract the clients who appreciate your specific traits. And honestly, the weirder you are, the more excited your weird clients are going to be once they find you, because they'll actually relate to you. They'll feel seen and they won't want to ever go to another artist, because being weird actually equals loyal returning clients. So now that you understand what authenticity really is, the power of storytelling, and what to talk about in your content and your reels, here is a step-by-step tutorial on exactly how to make one of these reels, so you can get started on making quality, authentic content today. Step 1. Start with a directionless rant on a voice note. Literally, grab your phone, hit record, and just talk through the whole experience with the client. From the first time they reached out to you, to them leaving the studio with the finished piece. Don't filter yourself. Also, don't worry about getting sidetracked or going in circles on this voice note. A messy voice note is gold because you'll actually say things you could never consciously script. Also, 2 quick things for making these voice notes a little bit better. Number 1, record it straight after a client tattoo session if possible, because the sooner you record it, the fresher all the details of that client experience are going to be in your mind. You can also be recording yourself through the process while you're designing, the issues you're facing, a realization of what could make the design better. My main point being, try not to leave it for days or weeks, after the tattoo, because your mind will have filtered out a lot of these, tiny, beautiful details of the experience by then. Also, record close to your mic in a quiet room if possible. The reason for this is if you say some gold and the audio is crisp, you can actually directly use that part of the voice note. Otherwise, you'll have to re-record and repeat what you said on that recording if it's noisy. So just a quick tip to avoid as much extra work as possible. This voice note should be free flowing, but also remember what fears and hesitations your clients have and what did they love about you, and try to sneak that into your voiceover when you can. Have, a note beside you with a list of bullet points of your client's fears and hesitations to remind you what to sneak in on the voice note when you can. So now that you have this voice note, step 2, listen back to the recording and cut it down. You can transcribe it with ChatGPT and highlight the good stuff, and try to keep it short, right? 10 to 12 sentences max. Aim for the reel to be less than 90 seconds long. And each sentence should feel like its own beat in the story. Think beginning, struggle, turning point, result, and the main takeaway of the reel itself. For example, is this reel to show how I change designs based on the client's story? Is this reel to show the story of one of my favorite clients to attract more people like him or her? Is this reel to help my audience get over their fear of physical pain when getting a tattoo? Step 3, script hooks for the start of the reel. The hook is the first 3 seconds of your video. The first 3 seconds decide if people stay. So we really need to put a bit more effort and strategic thinking into this part. Now that we have the story of the reel picked out and ready, let's come up with the 3 seconds that will cause enough curiosity in the audience for them to stay and watch the reel. Once again, I can't express how important these first 3 seconds are, so let's break down what makes a great hook. Firstly, there are 3 components to mastering a hook: the visual hook, the verbal hook, and the written hook. A visual hook is what's happening visually on the screen. It grabs attention through movement or unexpected angles. The verbal hook is literally what you're saying. So we want to use your words to create curiosity through that open loop as mentioned. And finally, the written hook. The written hook is whatever's written on the screen, basically. It could just be captions of what you're saying, or also some text to summarize what the reel is about at the top, like you see this guy do here. So going back to verbal hooks, basically what you say, there are different types of verbal hooks too, or in other words, there are different ways you can say the same thing. For this video, I'll just explain 3 verbal hooks: direct verbal hooks, question-based verbal hooks, and anecdotal verbal hooks. Let's take a real topic as an example. Let's say you're making a reel on how you realize nailing the glisten in the eyes in your dog portraits is what makes dog portraits really look and feel like a dog. A direct verbal hook goes straight to the point. For example, this is why some dog tattoos look like a dog, but others actually look and feel like a dog looking back at you. A question-based hook creates curiosity by asking an open rhetorical question without an answer yet. For example, why does this tattoo of a dog look like a dog, but this tattoo portrait looks and feels like a dog looking back at me? Finally, an anecdotal hook. This creates a connection through using a personal story of yours to relate to the reel. For example, I always wanted to get a tattoo of my dog, but every tattoo of a dog I saw, it kind of looked like a dog, but never felt like a dog looking back at me. So as a tattoo artist, I made it my mission to figure out exactly what really makes a dog portrait tattoo come alive. Now, what you say in the hook is very important as mentioned. So we want to test 3 different types of hooks to see what works. So yeah, we're going to post this reel 3 separate times with a different hook, a different first 5 seconds. And we'll wait a week in between each time to post the next one, because we want to see what type of hook attracts the most attention for your specific audience. So we can double down on those type of hooks and use your content as, testing data to improve our results, not just kind of post aimlessly. Now, for the actual visuals in the reel, the way you can make your life way easier and also post more consistently is using what's called B-roll. B-roll is footage you record once that you can use over and over again. Here are a couple of examples. So, you've got walking towards a camera, walking away, turning or spitting mid-walk, walking with hands in pockets, walking while looking sideways, then sitting on a bench and looking up, leaning against a wall, standing still with your eyes closed, looking out of a window, pausing mid-walk to take a break, opening a notebook and writing, pouring a coffee or tea, picking up or holding a book, holding a bag, scrolling your phone, tucking your hair behind your ear, looking directly into the camera, quick soft smile to the camera, playing with your hair or jewelry in frame, walking past the camera lens, setting up your station, wrapping your machine, opening the shop, walking through the shop. You get the point. Then we also want to have a clear short list of the shots you need to take on the day with the client that can't be replicated. For example, for these, you could have a wide shot of you tattooing, as you can see here, the examples. You can have a full shot, right, which is showing the full body from head to toe here. You can have the American shot, which, as you can see, frames the subject from head to toe or mid-thigh. It's lower than a medium shot, but lighter than a full shot. You've got a medium shot here, as you can see. You've got a medium close-up, but then, the main shots here are you tattooing this specific client or you taking the stencil off this specific client's arm, right? You've got a close-up of that tattoo in particular. So the main shots that you can't replicate are talking to that client, putting the stencil on that client's, reaction to the finished piece. By the way, you'll get a list of all the shots you can replicate or use over and over again, B-roll shots, and this list of shots that you can't replicate that you need to get on the day. They'll be linked in the description below. Your reels can actually be 70% B-roll and 30% new original shots, making it, faster and easier for you to finish reels. Also, when you know exactly what B-roll shots you need that you can use over and over again, you could even splash the cash and hire a professional videographer to record B-roll with you all day once, meaning that 70% of all of the shots in your reels then are going to be at a very high quality, which is how you can smartly post consistent high quality content without constantly, recording a lot of new footage. Going back to the reel, now that we have the full script, you can actually choose what B-roll to match what you're saying, to match the verbal story with the visual as best as possible. So now that we have our script, a strong hook, and our matching visuals, the final 2 quick tips on the editing. Make sure the shots change every 2 seconds. The reason for this is it retains people's attention visually, as it interrupts their brain patterns, regularly causing them to stay curious. And number 2, choose a song that matches the tempo of the reel and the story. The real way you can keep someone's attention in an almost hypnotic way is have the reel feel like a symphony. If the music, words, shots, and captions are all flowing at a similar tempo, it makes it easier to follow and releases more dopamine in the audience's mind, as it's almost kind of soothing to watch because it's so synchronized, meaning people enjoy your content that little bit more. And that's your storytelling reel blueprint. Also, I just want to say that these storytelling reels aren't to fully replace short 5 to 10 second reels that, reveal your finished tattoo. You should continue to do both types of reels and post high quality photos of your tattoos, not just one of these things. I'm going to quickly show you now a tattoo artist on Instagram that does all of this beautifully and show you a couple of their reels and break down why they're great. So here's someone that I want to show you guys that does a lot of this really, really well. As you can see, her name is Suavesura, I think. I don't know how to say that, but her name's Monica. She's based in Montreal. And as you can see here, she makes lovely, organic, authentic reels that are very storytelling based. I'm actually going to play 2 of her reels right now on the screen.
People often ask me how I stay inspired, and the truth is, I am not always inspired. But there are some tips that have really helped me when I've been through art block, and I'm gonna share them with you today. One of the things I will do is that I will go to museums. I feel like going to museums always recharges me and gives me plenty of ideas. Being surrounded by art.
And as you can see, she always opens up with a really good kind of broad hook. People always ask me how I stay inspired. The truth is, I'm not always inspired. For example, for the first reel. And then she explains how she stays inspired, which is a great reel. And for the second reel as well,
After almost 7 years of tattooing, something new happened to me. This client came to see me because she wanted to cover up one of my own tattoos that I did, I think, 4 years ago. So just to clear any misunderstanding, she still liked the design, she just didn't like the placement anymore. She felt like it was
For her covering up her own work, it's a vulnerable thing, but she opens up. It's a really informative reel. The cover up is amazing, and you can tell by listening to the reel that it's not scripted. She's just speaking her mind of what happened in that day and that experience, and then she cuts it up for it to be, one or a minute and a half, so it doesn't take up too much time. I'm actually going to play one other reel from her now as well.
From as far as I can remember, I've always been a very curious person. That would lead me to ask a lot of questions about other people because I'm really interested in what they love, what they do for a living, who are their friends, their families, and why they live, basically. And so when I was small, it would lead me to ask lots of personal questions to my mom, and sometimes she.
And as you can see, another easy storytelling reel opens up with an interesting hook. And she just uses the B roll of the day or sometimes from other days. And, you can tell it's filmed on her iPhone. It's nothing crazy fancy. And these reels do really, really well because they're authentic. They tell the story of the client, and sometimes they tell personal stories that relate to people. As you can tell from the Secret Garden reel that I just showed. Okay. And as you can see, it's working very well for her. Some of these reels have hundreds of thousands of views as well. She's got 50,000 followers. But most importantly, as you can see, her next booking round in her bio is January 2026. So she's has plenty of bookings. As of recording this, it's September. So these type of reels not only do well, but also build up enough trust with people to book with you very, very soon. So the main takeaways I would really love you to have from this video. Firstly, stop worrying so hard about coming across authentic, because when you shift your focus from how you're coming across to what you're actually sharing, authenticity happens naturally. Just like when you're in the flow state of tattooing, you're not thinking about how you look, you're just thinking about creating the best tattoo possible for your client. Use the power of storytelling and calculated hooks, verbal, visual, and written, to retain and keep attention. Make your life easier by ranting on a voice note without thought and then cutting it up into a cohesive story after. Use B-roll to make your life easier and post high quality content more consistently. Try to make at least 3 reels from one tattoo experience. If you don't do this, you're always going to run out of content. Find a song that will match the tempo of your reel to make it more hypnotizing to watch, and change the shot every 2 seconds to keep the viewer visually engaged. Also, don't just find inspiration from other tattoo reels. Reconstruct your algorithm to show you other high-performing storytelling creators to get new shots, music, sound effects ideas to improve your storytelling skills. And remember, the more you do this, the faster and easier editing will be. The hardest this will ever be is right now. Every aspect of your content will gradually get easier, and that's a promise. And finally, remember how far you've already come. You're nearly there. You got this. And want more personal help on, your tattoo marketing, business, sales skills, and making content, you can actually apply to work with me one-on-one. The first link in the description below. You'll get access to, 40 plus hours of content very similar to this. You'll also get access to me daily to be sending me your reels, your client conversations, and you'll get access to weekly group calls. And if you want to work with me personally one-on-one every single week, you can do that too. So apply down below in the first link in the description. And if you're not quite ready yet, no problem. Enjoy all the free content on this YouTube channel, and see you soon.